this record has been very, very well loved. I'm like 99% sure that this record actually survived Hurricane Katrina. Probably never sell it unless I get a cleaner copy one day. One of the best LA Punk 45s. I'm sure everyone knows this one. This is one of those records where like I have it in my collection on Discogs. People message me, hey, are you willing to sell that? I'm like, no.
Hey, my name's Patrick, and this is the first episode of a new YouTube series I'm doing called Record Rooms. I've been playing in bands and collecting records for 20 years at this point. Honestly, most of the people that I surround myself with do one or both of those as well. I love the feeling of showing somebody some music that you love and having them love it too. It's honestly the second best part of the whole thing. It's such a core part of how I experience music. So I really wanted to put a show together where I could do exactly that. Talk to people about what they love in a place that they're comfortable and try and capture their story, try and share their journey, and hopefully find some cool tunes along the way, which I definitely did in today's episode with Nick Aguilar. So a couple of weeks ago, I was in LA. He lives in Long Beach. It's not that far. So I drove down and I met him at his place, and we spent the morning together looking through his collection and talking about stuff, sharing stuff. I learned a lot from talking to Nick. I enjoy jazz, but I'm certainly less knowledgeable about it than I am about punk and garage and rock and roll and hardcore and all that kind of stuff. And if you feel the same way, I think this episode is going to be good for you because Nick, while he doesn't only collect jazz, he certainly has gone further down the well than I have. And that includes the same with soul and funk and even a little bit of disco here. But if you're here because of punk records, Nick also has some crazy punk records, and we'll get to that as well. Please, if you're watching the video, drop me a line, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. I want to hear it. I'm learning everything the hard way here. So it's a very DIY operation. It's really just me and a camera so far. So we'll see where it goes. But I'm excited to talk to more people, and maybe I'll talk to you at some point. That would be cool. Nick is a very busy man from Long Beach, California. He plays in several bands. When I first met him, he was playing in a band called Neighborhood Brats. I know after that he was touring with Mike Watt for a while of the Minutemen. We talk about that. Nick played drums in Slaughterhouse for a little while, and right now he plays in a band called Frankie and the Witchfingers, who are like kind of spastic new wave, but also they shred. Sometimes they're techie, sometimes they're even a little psyche. Devo is a great starting point, but it's not going to give you the whole picture. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I suggest you check them out because they've got several albums and they're always on the road. Anyways, I'm not going to go on for too long here. I'm going to let Nick speak for himself. I hope you enjoy the interview, and if you do, maybe stick around for the series because I got lots more coming down the pipe. Thank you.
Hey, what's up? My name is Nick Aguilar. I'm 28 years old. I've been collecting records since I was about 12. Very seriously been collecting for about, 10 years now. I play drums primarily in a band called Frankie and the Witchfingers, and I collect records that I like a lot, despite of genre, all kinds of stuff.
What came first? Your love of records or your love of drums?
Definitely I think my love of drums definitely came first. Mm-hmm. First concert that I ever went to, I was 9 years old. My dad took me to go see Rush.
The Professor.
Yeah, the Professor. Luckily, because of my dad, ever since I was 5 years old, he was always playing music for me,
Yeah.
Black Sabbath, Thin Lizzy, UFO, Deep Purple, bands like that. And he also was a huge Rush fan. In fact, my first memory of music ever was Rush. He was playing the Signals tape in his car. And I remember I was really drawn to the song New World Man for some reason.
It's a great song off that record?
Yeah, and I remember that was like my first memory of music ever. And then from that point on, I was very drawn to whatever my dad was playing. And, I looked up to my dad a lot in that regard. Yeah.
Well, once you started playing drums, what was the first record that you really connected to? Like inspired by, not as a music listener, but as a musician?
I guess this right here.
Double Nickels on the Dime, is that an original?
Yeah.
That's hard to find.
Yeah.
It's getting harder.
I got this. This is an original pressing of Double Nickels on the Dime. When the D. Boone says punk rock changed our lives on the song History Lesson Part 2. I was always into stuff that my dad was showing me, like I said before, like Thin Lizzy, Black Sabbath. But it wasn't until I discovered the Minutemen when I was 12 years old this band really changed my life. It's funny because this was the first like punk rock record, true punk rock record I ever got into. You know, when I was a kid, of course I knew who the Ramones were, I knew who the Misfits were, and I liked a few songs. But, you know, my dad had a friend at work who had this on CD, and he gave it to me. And I was really drawn to the cover because, you know, you could see San Pedro.
San Pedro.
And that's where I grew up. That's where I'm from. So I was like, that's cool. I'm going to listen to this. And I remember listening to it for the first time, and I was like, this is punk rock? You know, because it's, you know.
It's pushing the limit.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, you know, and then I started to learn more about the ethos of punk rock. And, you know, Mike Watt always said, you know, punk rock was about, like, not how fast or how hardcore you could be, but it's letting your freak flag fly, you know. And I always thought that was, you know, super cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I was 12 years old, this record straight up changed my life because, you know, when you open up the gatefold of the CD that I had, you know, you see SST Records, and then I got really into Black Flag, and then I got into Decline of Western Civilization, and then I discovered bands like, you know, X and The Circle Jerk.
You did some touring with Mike Watt.
Yeah, I toured with him in like 2019 for like a 6-week tour.
And you would have been like 22 or something when this tour happened, right?
Yeah, I was 22 years old. Yeah. That tour really taught me how to tour and be a road dog.
Was that the first time you went on a real long one?
That wasn't my first long one, but it was it was definitely the first longest one I've ever did, and it was the first one where it really, like, you know, kicked my ass.
What did you learn?
A lot. Oh man, what didn't I learn? I don't know. You just really learn tour etiquette like more than anybody, you know? Like, don't take too long at the gas station.
Never be the last one back at the car at the gas station, right?
You know, pack up as soon as you're done playing. Say hi to friends before the show. You know, don't eat sardines in the van unless everybody else is eating them because it stinks up the van. You know, dumb shit like that.
That's a good lesson.
Yeah.
That's a good lesson.
Whole New Orleans section.
Yeah, that's wild.
I love New Orleans.
What do you like about New Orleans?
You know, I've only been a couple times. It's not really the city, but just a lot of my favorite kind of funk and R&B is definitely from there. Like the producer Eddie Bo, got to be one of my favorite songwriters ever. Gators, Gator Bait. Ernie K-Doe, Here Come the Girls, Gossip, Cyril Neville, That's Eddie Bo, Professor Longhair, Meters, of course. This is one of my favorite 45s. Yeah, this Keith Mansfield, some cool library stuff. I just bought this off of Cut Chemist. He's always selling a lot of cool stuff. Oh, this is Eddie Bo, Lover and a Friend. The drummer who played on a lot of these productions was a guy named James Black. And in my opinion, he's the most underrated drummer of all time.
Really?
Oh, dude. The Next Ball Game by Neil Young, and the drums on this are just fucking insane. Oh, this is one of my favorite garage 45s. Get on This Plane by the Premiers. Just absolutely killer garage, borderline psych from East LA, 1966.
Cool.
Yeah. Trust me, I can't talk about everything.
Of course.
This would be a 6-hour-long episode. Yeah, because there's so many records in here that this is a really, really rare, like, Afro boogie record called Friday Night by Livy Ekmezi. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's an original Nigerian press on blue vinyl, of all things. Really hard to find clean. This is like a nice, I would call this like a Nigerian VG Plus.
Yeah.
And I traded literally like a whole crate of LPs for it. But yeah, super worth it. And I've had this thing for a while.
Sick.
I'm sure a lot of people know who this guy is.
Yeah, I was just about to mention William. I got kind of burnt a little bit earlier this year.
Oh, I'm sure.
I bought some VG Plus on Discogs, and they came in like, calling them VG would be generous. Yeah. But like you said, those are African VG Plus.
Yeah, you know, and like a lot of Jamaican records too are like that too. But if they sound good, you know, that's really all that matters. This is one of my favorite reggae records. It's called Reggae Vibes by Lovejoys.
In your collection?
In my collection on Discogs, and people message me, hey, are you willing to sell that? I'm like, no.
They're cold calling you.
Yeah, and it's a pretty clean original press on Top Ranking International. Super, super killer record.
Cool.
The Germs.
Oh, that looks like a partied on copy.
This is it's actually not even partied on. This is pretty funny. I met Don at some like punk rock talking events. I asked him if he could sign it, and this is what he did.
What single band or artist do you own the most records by?
Now I think about it, probably Guided by Voices. Yeah, I mean, I have a few here. Like I have got a reissue of B1000, an original press of Alien Lanes, original press of Isolation Drills, original press of this Robert Pollard, Doug Gillard record. This actually goes for a lot of money, and this has to probably be my best find in the wild because I got it for only $10.
Oh, killer!
At this like guitar shop in San Antonio that just happened to sell records.
Did they not know what they had, or was everything $10? Or what was
a lot of things were overpriced, and a lot of things were super cheap, and this was definitely one that slipped through the cracks. So when I saw this for only $10, I grabbed it. And yeah, this is another one of my favorites. Yeah, Big Boys and the Dicks live record. I think this was the first thing I actually ever heard by the Big Boys when I was getting into punk rock. Someone described them to me as the Texas Minutemen when I was a kid. So
it's not a bad description.
Yeah, not too far off, you know.
So one thing I noticed just looking at your shelf here, you've got MoFi sleeves on the inside, or MoFi style sleeves on the inside.
Yeah.
But it looks like you keep all the original outer sleeves, like whatever you bought them on.
Yeah.
Or with, right?
Or
like
I tried to, yeah.
The Guided by Voices you just pulled out still has the $10
Yeah,
on
that's
it,
kind of
right?
why I still have it on it.
Yeah, like you're not picky about that? You don't like upgrade all your sleeves? You don't pull them off?
No, for better for worse, I'm not super picky about them, you know.
45's the same?
Yeah, for the 45s, I keep them a little different, especially for the high-end stuff. I separate them like this. You know, have like the sleeve separate, like this. And then I keep the actual record in a cardboard sleeve like this. Yeah.
Cool. Do you clean your records?
One of the shops I work for has a VPI machine, and I go in there sometimes just to clean records. So yes, I do clean my records, especially if they're, you know, if I get a record that's like super hammered, you know, sometimes a VPI does like wonders.
So make a VG plus.
Straight up.
That kind of thing?
It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
Sometimes some records are lost causes for sure, but...
You can't fix scratches, right?
Yeah, no.
We both like records. We both play drums.
Yeah.
We got a shared language here. So I'm curious if you can tell me one or maybe a couple of the records that you have that have the best drum sound.
Best drum sound?
Not performance, but like production. Best drum sound.
Oh, man. That's a really good... Can I pick a live record?
Sure, of course.
Grant Green, Alive. When I was getting into jazz pretty heavily, probably like 7 or 8 years ago, this is one of the first jazz records I really fell in love with because it's like jazz funk, you know, it's kind of palatable, you know, for non-jazz listeners.
It's not skronk.
Yeah, and the drummer on here is Idris Muhammad, who I'm sure a lot of people who are going to be watching this knows who that is. And yeah, this record has been heavily sampled by hip hop heads and stuff, like specifically Tribe Called Quest. If it wasn't for Tribe Called Quest, I probably wouldn't even be into hip hop in general. And yeah, so listening to this years later, I was like, oh, I've heard that on a Tribe Called Quest record. And yeah, the drum sound on this record is just so incredible. You know, it's obvious why it's been sampled so much. And the way he plays the snare, the way he drags the snare on all the tracks here. The first song is a Kool and the Gang cover of Let the Music Take Your Mind. And this is probably the most played record in my collection,
really?
Honestly. Yeah. Because like it's funky and there's parts where it's just super beautiful, and you know, there's a lot of records in here I've played hundreds of times, but like this is definitely up there.
Are you a big Blue Note guy?
Oh yeah, most of my jazz records that I have are definitely Blue Notes.
Yeah.
Like this is an early Herbie Hancock record when he was more like on the modal and bop stuff. This is probably my favorite Herbie record. It's got, you know, The Egg, Cantaloupe Island, stuff like that. Cornbread by Lee Morgan. This is definitely one of my favorite Blue Notes and one of my favorite jazz records ever. I've played this a bunch.
Is this a jazz section you're pulling from?
Yeah, this is all my jazz stuff.
Bottom shelf.
Yeah, this is another classic Blue Note record that's one of my favorites. Yeah, not that rare or crazy, but definitely a gateway record into jazz for me. Same with this one. Not a Blue Note record, but Impulse. One of my first big buys and one of my first just jazz records that I got into at a very young age that I still love very much to this day. If we're talking spiritual jazz, I'm sure everyone knows this one. This is a classic from Alice Coltrane. Pretty damn good, clean copy of this. You know, people ask me a lot if you could hear one record for the first time again, it would be this one for sure. It's just super insane. The opening bass line on the title track, it literally loops in my head on a daily basis. I wake up and I hear doo, 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 doo. Like
There are worse ways to wake up.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm sure a lot of people know Roy Ayers is. This is one of my favorite jazz records that I was, well, you know, it's more jazz funk, but I was very drawn to this because of the cover. Incredible. He's Coming by Roy Ayers, Ubiquity. This is probably one of my favorite, like, cheap heat jazz records. Ramsey Lewis, Sun Goddess. It's a perfect, beautiful record. You could get this thing for $1 if you're lucky. I think I paid like $5 for mine. This is one of my favorite records of all time. Not an original, unfortunately. Stark Reality discovers Hoagie Carmichael's music shop. This is the reissue on Now Again. A sealed original, I think, just sold for like almost $5,000. Insane.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. But yeah, my jazz collection, my jazz stuff is definitely small, but the stuff I like, I really, really like.
Mighty, it seems like.
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
I'm like, I can only collect one expensive genre at a time. Exactly. Once I'm officially done with punk, maybe I'll dive in. Jazz isn't really become cumbersome.
It's like
here.
Punk stuff and jazz stuff. It's just like insane. And hip hop stuff is getting super
soul,
expensive
right,
too.
yeah.
Also, I mean,
but it's always been expensive.
Yeah.
So I've seen from your DJ sets, you often seem to like play both like a lot of US punk, but also like Latin jazz and Afro-beat and a lot of world stuff.
It just depends on where I'm playing and who I'm playing for, you know?
Where or maybe how do those genres, kind of antithetical genres, converge for you? Because I've seen you do them in the same set.
You know, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm a drummer, and a lot of those kinds of genres are very have a lot of emphasis on the percussion, especially in Latin music, especially in Afro-beat music, especially in funk music. You know, especially in old garage and punk music. You know, a lot of people have come up to me like after I've DJ'd, and they'll be like, "Hey, are you a drummer?" And I'm assuming they might know me because of like, you know, a band I've played in or something. And I was like, yeah, I do. It's like, I was like, are you familiar with like one of my bands or something? And they're like, no, like just a lot of the songs you were playing were just like really had a lot of emphasis on the drums. And I was
percussive
like,
stuff.
And like a few people have said that to me over the years of when since I've started DJing. And yeah,
totally. I mean, I find myself doing the same, probably not to the same degree, but like if the drums are good, I'm in.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah,
same. You know, so a lot of my favorite 45s and a lot of my favorite records are super heavy on the drums. You know,
Okay, so
always have been.
Favorite punk drummers?
Let's see. Well, obviously George Hurley of the Minutemen's got to be my favorite punk drummer of all time. I mean, if we're talking, you know,
We are.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the greatest rock and roll record ever. Yeah, Scott Asheton's definitely up there.
I might agree on that. Yeah.
I mean, Ray Basham, definitely one of my favorites. Robo, of course. Nobody plays like Robo.
Yeah, that's true.
DH, oh my god, DH fucking Peligro, like on this record, dude,
Yeah.
This is probably top 5 punk records of all time. Yeah, I mean, everyone loves Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables, but in my opinion, this is where the Dead Kennedys were fucking born right here.
I completely agree. Fresh Fruit is incredible, but once DH joins the band,
Oh, dude.
they really take off.
Well, the songwriting also got like more like progressive on this record
for sure.
too. Like,
For sure.
you know, like it's not like an average punk record at all.
Nothing about that band is average.
No, and I've talked to Jello about this record. And I was like, I told him, you know, this is my favorite. It's like Plastic Surgery. It's my favorite Dead Kennedys record. He said that's his favorite too. Yeah, it's incredible. Bill Stevenson, of course. This is one of my favorite records because if you're not familiar with this record, you know, Descendants put out 2 live records around the same time, Liveage and this one, Hallraker. And this one's really interesting because it has kind of like more like B-sides, but like the B-sides are like even better live here.
Yeah, I think I like Bill Stevenson more than I like Descendants.
Yeah,
You know?
that's fair.
When Bill's in Black Flag,
Yeah.
that's incredible too.
Oh, of course.
But of course, like, you can't beat Milo.
No.
Nothing beats Milo.
Nothing beats Milo.
Yeah.
How could we forget Slayer Hippie?
You're a big Poison Idea guy. I see lots of Poison Idea stuff hanging around.
Everything about them, just their aesthetic, the songwriting, how they went from just blistering hardcore in the early 80s to like getting more crossover, but still keeping like the awesome like punk ethos of what they were about. I think next to Black Flag and the Minutemen, they're like the most important like American punk band, in my opinion.
Yeah.
How could we forget the Plugs too?
Oh, that Plugs record is incredible.
Yeah.
Is that the Silver Label copy or what?
Black
Label.
yeah.
That's the first press. I got the second press, Silver Label. But for my collection, I can't speak for yours, but for my collection, that's one of the best sounding records.
Oh, it sounds
on my
great.
shelf.
Yeah.
Every time I put it on, it's like you got to turn it down because it's mixed so hot.
Yeah.
Incredible
Drum sound.
Yeah.
JKL. Here it is. Legal Weapon.
Oh, classic.
No Sorrow. I think they were from East LA. Ed Culver took the photo of this. My friend John from Mono Records reissued it. I would love to own an original one day. In my opinion, this is the most underrated LA punk release ever. There's only like 6 songs on it or something. It's an EP. It's a 12-inch EP. And it was originally released like this. But yeah, this is,
it's classic.
God, one of my favorite, most underrated.
Have you ever seen an original?
No, but my friend Taylor bought one at Amoeba, and they didn't know what they had, and it was only $100, and that thing goes for like $1,000, maybe more. Yeah, crazy.
Everybody's got a record that got away. A record you see on the wall, you can't afford it right now, or it's just not right. You're buying something else cool. And you're like, I'll get that next time. And then someone else buys it, and you never see it again. What's the one that got away for you?
Probably the Stain self-titled. Yeah.
The LP.
Yeah, I had a chance to buy it like 10 years ago for like $200, and I was like, no, I can't spend that much money on there now. But now it goes for like way more.
Sonics.
Yeah. Well, I just pulled Boom. Yeah.
I bought my Boom off of you, actually. You sold me it's a mono, first press mono.
Yeah. And it's like kind of VG, but it plays really well,
That's right.
Yeah, this is my upgraded copy. Yeah.
Can I see? So I had a really nice first press stereo.
Nice.
And one sold on eBay. It was for like 500 US or something.
Yeah.
And I needed the money, so I was like, I would love to have 500 US. So I put mine up like a week or two later, and it sold for like 200. Wow. And I was like, damn it, I would have rather kept it.
Yeah.
So getting the mono off of you was huge. I still need the other one. Here Come the Sonics, but Boom.
I have that one. It's a second press though. Second press mono.
I would be happy with it.
Yeah, I'm happy with it too. As long as it sounds good and it's early and it's mono.
Yeah, and Sonics on 45. Do you have any singles from them?
Yeah, I got a couple. Like I have The Witch.
Classic.
Oh, this is one of my favorite. The Hustler.
Yeah.
I actually got this in Seattle for a really good price. I think I only got like, this goes for a lot. I think I paid like $75 for it. It's like a strong VG, but it plays great.
What's your Sunday morning coffee record?
This is a great record to wake up to. It's called, the band's called Telegraph Avenue, self-titled. They were like a psychedelic band from Peru. Just really, really beautiful, compelling music. People say it sounds like, I don't know, if the Beatles were like making music in Peru, but I don't know. I think it's a lot way cooler than that. And it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite records. It's on the Mag label. So that's probably like Sunday morning coffee. This is another one of my favorite ones to wake up to. It's called Para Ti by Enrique Olivares. Killer private press record out of Stockton, I believe, but I think these guys were originally from Mexico. I don't know much about it other than that it's a really rare record.
It's a great album cover.
Yeah, it's killer, and I paid up a lot for it for my friend Alex. And but this is another record that I've probably listened to a lot in my collection, like probably over 100 times. This is another great one that I like to throw on first thing in the morning. If you want to talk about great drums, yeah, holy crap. Killer record. Really hard to find. Really hard to find clean. Yeah, this one's still in the shrink. Yeah. This guy had 2 records under the Roy Porter Sound Machine. I don't have the other one, but I think this one's better anyway.
What's the most beat up, well-loved record that you have?
Earlier I was talking about a guy named Eddie Bo, who was a New Orleans funk guy, producer, and he's like my James Brown. I really love New Orleans funk and R&B, and he was like the king of that sound and what I like. Yeah, as you can tell, this record has been very, very well loved. It's
Oh, I thought it was a blank label.
no, it's not a blank label. It's on a label called Scram, and you can barely see it on one side, and then you can't even see it on the other side, because I'm like 99% sure that this record actually survived Hurricane Katrina. And it's definitely not in the best condition, but I got it for a good enough of a price where I could justify buying it, because it's a really rare record, especially if you get it clean. Surprisingly, it plays, and it's a piece of history for many reasons, and it means a lot to me. And I'll probably never sell it unless I get a cleaner copy one day. A lot of people probably know who Blowfly is, Clarence Reed, but he was a great producer. You know, he produced like Betty Wright, Gwen McCrae. This is one of my favorite funk 45s ever. It's called Save Me by James Knight and the Butlers. There's an LP by him, I think it's called Funky Cat, yeah, that's what it's called. And that is a white whale LP for me. And if that popped up for a good price, I would buy it instantly. That's like my number one want. I would love to own that record. Killer record. I would love to own an original of this one day. This is just a reissue. This LP, her only LP, was only pressed in Canada, of all places. Yeah, just once. Yeah, just once, and it's like super rare. The Chiefs. One of the best LA Punk 45s. I'm sure everyone knows this one.
What color's the back?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Black.
Black. I think black's the second press, white's the first.
Still cool.
But you know what? It's like the same year. It doesn't bother me. My copy is also black.
Same year.
Yeah, I don't mind.
And yeah, that label, man, that just says The Nerves on it, like, that looks so fucking cool to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They self-released it, and then Bomp picked it up as distro.
Speaking of early LA Punk, the Urinals, absolutely one of my favorites. This is super cool, too, because it has the original handwriting on it, too, which is white label, ack, and yeah. I'm white and middle class, and I'm a bug. Gigi Allen, before he started eating his own shit on stage, really fucking good.
He was still pretty nasty in that era, too.
He was?
Well, I mean, if you read the lyrics on a lot of those early 45s, he's not a nice person.
Yeah, no, he wasn't.
But like, the Gigi that's infamous wasn't quite there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LP, that's not that hard to find, but this is a tough one to get on 45. One of my favorite punk 45s ever. Yeah. In fact, I like Love Comes in Spurts better. That's probably my favorite. A lot of people probably aren't familiar with this, but it's a Private Press Portland record called by a band called Ice Nine. And the second track on here, Revolting Mess, has definitely got to be one of my favorite hardcore punk songs of all time. Original German press of Ege Bamyasi by Can, probably my top 10 favorite records ever. This is the original one that came with the poster. And yeah, it's pretty insane, pretty impossible to find. I've never seen that poster ever again.
The Belgian Kids.
Finally got an original of this when I was in Brussels just a couple weeks ago. Rock and roll doesn't get much better than this, you know? Love the blue Philips label, it's so nice. You know, it's not the cleanest copy, but it plays really well. I can't complain. So other than Pick Your King, from Poison Idea, this is probably my favorite punk 7-inch of all time. No offense to the band, but I hate the reissue art so much that this is the only record where I've actually printed out the original art so I didn't have to fucking look at it. Yeah, sounds good, so it's fine. But I'll get an original one day once I sign to a major label or something.
If you're still here and you enjoyed what you just watched, well, thank you very much. I am doing this as a labor of love, and I would really appreciate it if you could like, comment, subscribe, because I've got lots more underway. I got lots coming down the pipe. I'm really excited to start getting these out to people. Again, thank you. I really appreciate it, and hopefully see you in the next one.